Reality for those who've mastered the art of passive income. Successful individuals aren't just working hard, they're working smart by multiplying their wealth through assets that earn for them even in their sleep. Think about it. Owning real estate, vehicles, intellectual property, and cutting-edge equipment. These aren't just possessions, they're your silent earners, tirelessly working to pad your bank account through leases, subscriptions, royalties, and fees. The best part? They don't demand your time, energy, or constant attention. Now, you might be wondering, what kind of asset gives me the best edge? Let's look at the market leaders. Amazon, Google, Apple. What's their secret weapon? Data technology assets. In today's digital gold rush, data is king. These giants are thriving by storing, processing, and leveraging data. But here's the kicker. What if you could tap into this data tech boom with minimal upfront cost? Enter CloudX. It's not just another cloud technology. It's a game changer designed to decentralize the profit power of big tech. With CloudX, you're revolutionizing how data profits are earned and shared. Over the next 12 months, IX is launching multiple data centers globally, and here's your exclusive invitation to be part of this groundbreaking movement. Ready to change your financial future? Discover how to jumpstart your journey with CloudX today.
All right. All right, guys, thank you so much for being on with us. I have the privilege of being here and hosting this amazing event for you guys. If you guys are streaming in from, let me rephrase that. Let us know where you guys are streaming in from. You should be seeing this right now on Facebook, on YouTube. We have the comments up here, so let us know what part of the world you guys are coming in from. We got some people from Canada this morning, some people from Connecticut. Perfect. Where else are we streaming in from? We got 100 people on so far, so we'll just kind of wait a couple seconds here, get this up and going. For those of you guys that do not know who I am, my name is Joe Martinez. I'm the founder and CEO of a great community here called IX. We founded our company as a self-betterment platform and have since then moved into the technology space. Over the last 3 years, we've had some amazing successes around the world. We have great communities from Latin America to India to Africa and here in the US. So thank you so much for being here. We got people from New Mexico, New York, Atlanta, St. Louis, Missouri, India, Colorado, Ghana, West Africa. Welcome, New York, Nigeria tuning in as well. Perfect. All right. Pete Peterson as well. Australia, we got some Australians. Thank you so much. I know it's probably about 2 a.m. out there, somewhere there. Texas, we got some people from England here, England in the house. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on with us wherever you're at in the world. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me. Like I said, my name is Joe Martinez. I'm the founder and CEO of a technology company that we are starting up here. You guys are here at the very, very beginning. This is our public launch for a model that I believe is going to give us, the people, our power back. It's going to give us, the people, the way to earn like tech companies earn. And so with that, guys, I'm going to go through, I'm going to start my presentation here because we don't have a lot of time today. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So let's see. Let's get this up and running here. All right. So we are right now in the process, and over the last 3 months have created a new company, a new movement, a new brand called Innate, IN8. What does this brand represent and why is it important to what we are doing? As you can see, the logo, it has that infinity symbol in it, because to me, everything is interconnected. IN8, it stands for the word innate. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's basically your inherent gifts. I like to say your God-given talents, what you were born with, those natural talents. You see some people out there, they're just natural athletes, they're natural public speakers, they're natural whatever it may be. Those are your innate gifts. They were given to you from a higher power, okay? But I believe every single one of us as human beings, we were given innate rights. We were given rights that we were born with. And I think that's defined in the US Constitution very well. But we as citizens of the world, we forget that. As life starts to happen to us and knock us down, we start to realize, hey, maybe I couldn't be as successful as I wanted to be. Maybe I couldn't be that public speaker. Maybe I couldn't be that athlete. Maybe I couldn't be that business executive. Maybe I couldn't be the mom that I wanted to or the father that I wanted to, because certain things start to happen in your life. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. You are here. You have a purpose. And what we want to do is we want to help build this movement up. And we want to help you have technologies in your life that can give you a better way of life, right? Financially. And I think the biggest thing that we need to understand is that technology can change our lives. And I think there's a lot of news out there talking about AIs. Imagine in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, when we start to realize, wow, back in 2023, 24, they started talking about these AIs and these companies. And now my children, your children, or your grandchildren are being told what to eat, how to eat it, what products to buy, what products not to buy, all by an AI model that was built in today's world. And so we have an opportunity right now to, if you will, protect ourselves, if you will, fight for our rights, stand up for what we believe in. And I think that is what this movement represents, is giving the power back to the people. Okay, so with that, I want to start off with the disclaimer here. As you guys know, or you may not know if you guys are meeting me for the first time, I am not a licensed securities expert. I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not a lawyer. So, and neither are any of my employees or content providers. So all of the content that you're going to see here today, all of the educational material you're going to see here today is to be used at your own risk. What we provide is technology, hardware and software. That's it. Hardware and software to make your life better. That's what our goal is, okay? But you have to make that decision for yourself. I can't promise you any type of ROI or income, or that you'll have any type of particular result. Your results will vary dependent on the effort that you put into the overall community and the value that you can add to us here at Innate Technologies and Innate, okay? So why are we here today? Well, we're here today to decentralize big data, to democratize the cloud, the way people can earn from the cloud. Over the last few years, everything has shifted into the cloud. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Every single one of you guys right now has one of these devices on your phone, or one of these devices, and on your phone, you're connected to the cloud. Every single one of us. Doesn't matter. You have your pictures there. You have your videos there. Where are those pictures sitting at? They're sitting in some building somewhere around the world, probably in LA or Seattle or New York, and they're sitting there publicly. So ask yourself, do you really know where your data is, where you are storing your pictures, where you are storing information? So Innate meets CloudX. CloudX is a project that we started to create over the last probably 120 days or so. And the concept behind it was to help people earn from the cloud, decentralize the power of data. Make sure you understand where you are keeping your data. Make sure you understand that these AIs that are getting trained right now are getting trained off of the information you are giving it. You are giving your rights away when you click that OK button and it says, hey, you can train your AI with my data. That's your pictures, that's your documents, that's your PDF. All of your media files are going into a public cloud system over at one of the big tech companies, and they are using you and your data to train its future profit-making center. So what we want to do, guys, is we want to educate people and help them understand that in today's digital world, data is king, okay? Data is king right now in this world. And I'll have some experts on here in a few minutes to talk about this. In this world, we are creating more and more data than ever before. Why is that? Ask yourself, do you guys delete pictures? Right? How many pictures do you have of the same version, right? Maybe a finger moved, smile, not smile, blink, not, you have 10, 15 photos of the same pose, right? And you don't delete any of them, right? You get pictures from family and friends all the time. We never delete it. And what happens? We have to just keep upping and upping our storage devices. Our cloud subscription just keeps going up and up and up and up. So data is king right now. It's estimated that 90% of the world's data was generated in the last 2 years alone. And all of this, guys, everything that's being created right now and that will be created over the next 3 to 5 years, as far as data, media files, will go to what these big tech companies are talking about right now, AI. And I keep talking about AI because that's the end game. That's the end result here, okay? That's where these big tech companies are headed right now. The hardware has caught up to the programming. I'll talk about that here in a little bit with my good friend when we talk about software. So in today's digital world, data is king, but the cloud is everything. Now, what is the cloud? You talk to some people and they think, oh, the cloud is up there. It's in space. It's the satellites, goes up to space and it comes down. And that's what a lot of people think about, the internet. And some people don't realize there's actually fiber optic cables that go under the ocean, okay, from the Americas, from LA over to Asia. So the internet doesn't really go up to space and back down. It actually goes through fiber optic cables that stay on the earth, right? And just as well as the data centers, the data does not sit up in a satellite on a hard drive in the satellite in the sky. It's actually in a building somewhere around the world. And when you start to realize all of these things, it's like, wow, there is a lot of processing power that's needed to run the internet these days. We are connected so much more than we ever were in the past. I know 10 years ago, I met my wife down in Lima, Peru, and I used to have to call her with calling cards and Skype. And a lot of these things have changed. Now you can do business all around the world. You have tools like WhatsApp and instant messaging, and it makes life easier. We're connected, but it also creates instant gratification. And one of the things that we want to help people with is understanding their financial future, understanding the financial principles of living a better life. That's the educational side of what we do. If somebody asks you what we do two things. We help people acquire income producing skills and high income producing skills, and we help people acquire income producing assets. Okay. Income producing assets. That's what we're going to talk about here today. That's what the cloud is all about. So to talk about this industry just a little bit and to kind of set this up for some of my good friends that I have on with me today, let's talk about the market size. Currently today, the market size sits under just under $500 billion. Okay. The US is the biggest market. When I read that, I was so excited because I was looking for a business and a business opportunity or an asset that I could hold here in the US. I'm a big Web3 and crypto believer, but unfortunately here right now in the US, the regulatory uncertainty does not allow an entrepreneur like myself to build a business. So we had to look for something that was US compliant, if you will, that the US regulators understood. And so when I read the US is the biggest market, I said, wow, we can build the US market. We can build this here and we do not have to worry about it. So very, very excited about this, that point right there. As well, this market, this cloud computing sector is estimated to grow to over $2 trillion in under 10 years, okay? Why? Number one is because we're creating more data than ever. And number two is because companies are focused right now on artificial intelligence, AI. So what happens here, guys, is that things are going to start to accelerate more and more. And it's one thing that leads to another thing that leads to another thing, and things just explode, right? So what we've done, guys, is we have gone through, and over the last 3 to 4 months, we've been investigating, working with experts, and we have been setting up our own public and private cloud. We'll talk about some of those concepts here in a little bit, but what we've done is we've secured different contracts. We've secured different roles and hardware and software development that will help us to create a CloudX, okay, a cloud that is for the people and by the people. The CloudX servers are going to be hosted and managed in strategic locations around the world, so we can have and offer industry standard servers to companies, to individuals, to entrepreneurs, to enterprise level clients anywhere around the world. Okay. So what does that mean? That means we're not going and doing this thing half cocked. Okay. A lot of people thought, oh, Joe comes out of the crypto, sector, and he's just going to take some crypto farms and kind of convert them in this. No, what we've done is the exact opposite. We've gone 100% data set certified data centers. Okay. What does this mean? Honestly, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. I'm going to have one of our experts talk about data centers here in a few minutes, because I don't know. There's things like redundancy and uptime and SLAs and all these different things. The thing that I want you guys to understand, if you guys are looking at this as an opportunity to acquire a revenue generating asset, a piece of hardware that could generate you some type of revenues, okay, it is going to be hosted and it's going to be secured in a very, very well maintained and a very, very well an environment that is conducive to having these machines last a very long time. They're not going to be getting sand in them. They're not going to be overheating. They're not going to be having power outages every single day. So those things are very important when we start to look at this. So understand, guys, that our model is unique. And this is your model right here. Okay. So when people ask, if you start on the top left-hand side over here, you'll see you purchase or lease a hardware pack from the company. Okay. Once you do that, it will be shipped to a strategic data center that we are hosting our cloud in. Okay. Once it's received, our experts will, what they call rack it and stack it. They'll actually go in there. There's actually people that are needed for this, guys. They need to put the machines together. They need to put it in a rack and they need to turn it on. And once it is installed and provisioned, it will be plugged into the cloud, and it could be utilized in a public setting or a private setting, which we'll talk about more later. Once your hardware is hosted in the cloud, it's turned on, it's provisioned, it's ready to go. What will happen next is we will start working together as a community, bottom left-hand side, and we'll start to load tenants into the public cloud. When we load tenants into the public cloud, what they'll be doing is they will be borrowing or renting your spare resources. Okay. And as this starts to happen, I like to talk about it kind of in the real estate model or the Airbnb model. So think about Airbnb for a minute. If you own a home and you had 2 spare bedrooms, or you had a spare basement, or you had a spare home altogether, what do? You go onto Airbnb, you become a host, and you get out there, you take some pictures, you put some effort into it, you make it look nice and pretty, and you put it on Airbnb as a listing, and then somebody rents it out. When they rent it out, you get paid, and so does Airbnb. It's that same exact model. You're renting out spare resources that are allocated to the public cloud. Okay. And then for the use of your resources, CloudX and the cloud company will then go and pay you for the usage of those resources, just like Airbnb does. They pay for the, when somebody rents out your home, they pay you directly. Same exact concept. Okay. So you will be buying a piece of hardware. Hardware gets provisioned, clients get loaded onto it, rent out your resources, you get paid. It's that simple. So you have a hardware that can produce you some type of revenues for the next, call it 3 to 5 years. Yes, this is an asset. There's going to be, just like if you own a home or if you own an apartment building, sometimes you're going to get leaky pipes. Sometimes you're going to get a clogged toilet. Sometimes you're going to get a clogged drain, whatever that may be. So you as the landlord is going to have to go over there and replace it. Maybe you get a hole in the sheetrock. You have to repair that. Hardware is the same thing. Can things go down? Yes. There's different things in what we'll talk about later as far as being able to maintain them and warranty these machines. So you don't really have to worry about it. It's not a set it and forget it type of thing, but this is something that is with very low amount of time could generate you a pretty decent revenue and pretty decent distribution on an annual basis. So as you guys know, positioning is everything. This is our public launch. We've been talking about this for about a week now with our community, and they've invited you on. If you were invited here, you're listening in right now, you were invited here for a reason. Number one, maybe you're trying to make some extra money. Number two, maybe you're trying to take control back of your life because you make enough money, but you don't have enough time. And so a lot of people right now are looking for ways, especially because a lot of us feel there's a recession coming, or we are in a recession. We're starting to feel that pinch through inflation. And there's a lot of things going on right now. So the best time to take action, guys, is now. The best time to position yourself is right now. And this isn't something, guys, that we just started yesterday, okay? It was last week. We've been looking at this for quite a while now. And my good friends, Miguel Rodriguez and Maria Rocha, they actually brought this concept to me when we were out in our mastermind in Oakley, Utah. So if you guys were with us, it was in the month of September. They sat me down in between one of our trainings. They're like, Joe, you got to take a look at this concept of these hardware and data servers. And I was like, yeah. I don't know. I was a little bit gun shy. And what I love about Miguel and Maria, you guys will get to know these guys over the next little bit, but Miguel is probably the best person that you could have on a team to follow up with somebody. It's just, he's an amazing individual as far as his sales go, as far as his, ability to interact with humans, but he is the best follow-upper. That's the word that I'll put it. And there's a word that they teach you in sales, or a concept or a cliche, if you will, the fortunes in the follow-up. And Miguel, that's why he makes a lot of money, because he's able to go out there and follow up and follow up and follow up. And he kept on me, guys, for about 30, 45 days. And I finally said, okay, I'll sit down. I'll listen. He said, okay, jump on this Zoom. I listened and my mind was blown. And once your mind is expanded, it cannot contract. And this idea sat with me for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. And then I started, as you guys know or may not know, I'm going through some regulatory issues with the government here in the US. And I talked to my lawyer about it. And they're like, hey, actually, that's a great business model. And I asked him, you don't think there's any type of issues with the security side? He's like, well, we have to set up the model and look at it, but I don't think so. And he put me in contact with somebody. And he's like, well, let's go have lunch. I have a good friend of mine, and he knows all about data centers and this and that. And he helped this company and that company. He started mentioning names like eBay and PayPal. And I was like, okay. And so we went and had lunch, and I was even more blown away. My mind expanded even more. And my mind just kept growing and growing. And it just became one of those things that just kept happening. And he introduced me to another individual, and my mind was blown even more. And so what we've done over the last 3 to 4 months, guys, is we put a team together. And I want to introduce you guys to that team today. I want to be able to do kind of a small Q&A. If there's any type of questions that might come through in the chat, we might take a couple questions in the chat if you guys have any of those. But today, guys, I want to thank Miguel and Maria for giving us this idea, giving us this sector that we could get into here with this community. And I also want to thank and bring on with me today our good friends. And I want to talk about them really quickly, because my securities lawyer introduced me to Spencer Viernes. Okay, Spencer is a data center consultant. He's actually a lawyer by trade. Don't hold that against him. And he is an amazing individual, so much knowledge about data centers and all the electrical grid that's going to be required to run AIs over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so once I started talking to him, he introduced me to Nash. Nash Foster, guys, when I first sat down with him, and I sat down with Rusty and Mike and some of the other team on the software side, I just felt, look, this is the right team. This is people that I would feel like I want to partner with to grow this. And what we've done over the last, probably since the beginning of the year, last 90, 60-ish days or so, is come up with a concept that I believe that can help a lot of individuals out there. So with that, guys, I want to bring on with me Spencer Viernes, Nash Foster, and I kind of want to talk, guys, really quickly. Thank you guys for being on with us, first of all. Nash down there and Spencer as well. Guys, I've had a lot of questions, and I want the people to hear from you a little bit. Spencer, when I first met you, our good friend Romain was talking about, he's like, he's worked for eBay and PayPal. And I was like, oh, okay, that like sparks, right? And then tell us a little bit maybe of your experience, Spencer, on, how you got into the industry of data centers, if you will, or just data in general. And then Nash, if you could do the same right after that, that'd be amazing, and let the people know who they're hearing from here.
Yeah, totally, Joe, and thanks for the opportunity. So I started out, as you mentioned, in the legal space. I did a lot of real estate and corporate work, and everything from building condominiums to building solar farms around North America. After a few years, I was recruited out of private practice to work with eBay and PayPal and head up their global infrastructure group from a legal perspective. And that meant building all data centers and telecommunications infrastructure globally. So fiber optic cabling, how we connect to the internet, and then managing all of our data centers and hosted sites around the world. And we spent about $1 billion a year building out different facilities around the world. I managed the eBay and PayPal split in 2015, and then went on to consult with a number of different tech companies from Facebook, Google, Microsoft around what they were doing in the data center space. In 2016, I founded and helped the then head of infrastructure at Uber, Dean Nelson, found or start a trade association right around data centers and digital infrastructure globally, called Infrastructure Masons. And our initial founding partners were Google, Microsoft, eBay, PayPal, Facebook, and Uber. And so I've stayed around data centers for much of my career, and it moved a little bit more away from the legal side and more onto, what we do in the cloud spaces, how we develop data centers, and how we connect to both power and to the internet. And so I've had a bit of a lengthy career in turning dirt in ways that could basically electrocute all of us.
And I know when we were first talking, you're talking about setting up these data center, I don't know what they call them, but these like electrical grids and yards and all this stuff. And why is that necessary today? Like what's going on that data centers, and I know it's all over the news, but if you're not aware of what's going on, why do data centers need so much power? And kind of talk a little bit about the power needs of the technologies that we're creating now for the future and what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, we've hit an inflection point. Public cloud, so and Nash can probably speak to this as well, but data centers have had a significant kind of lifespan, and it used to be, back when the internet was really getting going in the 90s, that people built small racks and put their servers there, and then ultimately they started building bigger buildings, and then they went to third parties to build the buildings for them, and found that they didn't want to do it that way, and so they started taking it back and building their own buildings. And then the cloud came around, and Amazon was one of the first to really push cloud, but Google and Microsoft came behind them. And we're at an inflection point now, because even as the cloud has grown significantly, and really the cloud is these huge buildings, think 300,000 square feet or 3,000 or 30,000 square meters. They're packed with just rows and rows of servers that are all consuming electricity. And so they basically, many data centers take as much power as cities. And now with AI coming into the sphere, the amount of power that's required for data centers, or the amount of power that data centers will consume, given the conveniences and how we use artificial intelligence, is likely to quadruple. And everyone from the cloud players to the public utilities and the federal agencies that regulate electricity across North America, they know that this is coming. And so cloud is not going to go away. There will be all kinds of use cases for both what we call public cloud now, moving into the future beyond just kind of the top names that we think of now, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. And there will be specific clouds associated with individual use cases, right, for particular industries. And so the growth is going to be significant as we move forward. And if electricity demand is a reflection of the demand for those cloud services, to give a sense of the size of that demand, Google said they're going to need 4 times as much power over the next 5 years.
Yeah. It's a lot of power. And Nash kind of same thing, right? Take a minute, let people know, who you are. I remember we just did a podcast, so we're going to be pushing out public today. And I love what Nash said. He's like, I got some gray on my beard. So I've been around for a while. And so Nash, kind of tell them a little bit about your background in the, in the software space, where you got started, and also, your experience in cloud in general.
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction. I've been around building internet systems since the early '90s, when I was a member of the staff at a University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, building out infrastructure there. I've spent the decades since focused on understanding problems that exist across what we call the stack, which is hardware, networking, software, and performance at every different level of that stack. I've worked for Google. I was one of the founding team members at Oracle on their cloud team, helped them build out their cloud infrastructure products. So I'm very familiar with the way that physical infrastructure in terms of data centers, like Spencer's talking about, and how that forms the basis on which you can build out compute infrastructure, which is servers that go in the racks, and then how you use software to aggregate those together in a way that makes them able to perform large compute jobs and to coordinate in order to service applications that end users are interested in. And over the last 7 years, I've been working partly in the crypto space, but also as we've done a lot of consulting and just decentralization in general, because one of the things that I've noticed back in the early '90s when I got started, anybody could put a server on the internet, go to their ISP, get a machine, get an IP address, get up and running, get going, have their own website. It took a little bit of technical knowledge, but it wasn't super sophisticated. It wasn't super difficult. And over time, more and more of the infrastructure that's needed in order to do that has become centralized in these giant companies like Google and Amazon. And I just think that's sort of antithetical to the nature of the way the world works and the way it ought to work. And I want to see an internet that's a lot more decentralized, that's controlled more by the individuals who are actually using it, and less by corporations that just happen to have access to preferential financial deals on the back end. And so then I got brought in on this project by Spencer and introduced to you. I remember having lunch with you and just sitting there listening to you talk about decentralization and the way that technology could be used to put power back in the hands of the people, and thinking, man, I could have written this speech, like it. And so yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited by the potential that we have here on this project.
Awesome. And I think we got a couple of good questions in the chat here that I want to maybe throw your guys' way. But, one of the biggest questions that I get asked and is like, well, how is what you're doing, Joe, is I call it a community-based cloud, in a sense where we are having a community build up the cloud infrastructure as far as the hardware. How is that going to be able to compete with these other hyperscalers, as they call them, out there? And why do we even have a chance? And I think it's important for people to understand that we do have a fighting chance, and it is, at least the way I look at it, is we have more than a fighting chance with all of us coming together. And from your point of view, Nash, I'll start with you on this and then over to Spencer. But kind of why do you feel like, when we had that first conversation, why is this model going to work over the traditional hyperscaler model?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that the hyperscalers have had over the last 20 years or so is access to low interest bank money that they could leverage to build the assets that they have in their data centers. And that, as inflation, as you mentioned earlier, as inflation goes up, the interest rates on a lot of those loans are going up as well, and fewer and fewer corporations are able to make the kind of investments in the next stage. And so, on the one hand, we are seeing even more powerful moves towards centralization, one of the beauties of your organization, your networking community, is that it has the potential to break that model, right? You don't need to go to the banks on Wall Street to get preferential loans in order to build data centers. You can finance a lot of that stuff, and we can bootstrap that using the community as as a decentralized form of financing instead. And I think that's a really powerful thing to combine with the ability of the community to then use their own cloud, or what sometimes we call in the software industry eating our own dog food, right? And so if we're going to build this thing and we're going to use it and we're going to tell all our friends about how great it is and how powerful it is, I think that synergy is going to lead to a kind of exponential growth that the hyperscalers are actually having a hard time continuing to replicate. And so we can do something right now that they're struggling to do, and that will allow us to build out the infrastructure that we need to really service the next generation of the internet, and to do it in a way that promotes freedom and independence for all the people that are actually using it.
That's awesome. And Spencer, and same question, but as well, I think I'd add, you talked about like the infrastructure and the electrical stuff. And I read all these articles out there now that, these hyperscalers are going out there and just consuming basically as much power as they can, because that's the way they look at it, as power, not square footage. How or why could we be able to, get our community decentralized, democratized cloud into the key data centers where we're going to need it to run an efficient and strategic cloud?
Yeah, as Nash mentioned, the big hyperscalers utilize large chunks of funding so that they could deploy their clouds even when it wasn't really profitable. I think one of the advantages that CloudX has is cloud is profitable out of the gate now. And not only are there millions of new entrants into the development and the demand space for cloud services every year, there's a significant population among those new entrants and among existing cloud participants or data center users that don't really want to be locked into what Amazon Web Services or Azure or GCP really commit them to. For a number of reasons. One, you have an acceptable use policy usually through all of the hyperscalers that basically allows them to shut you down if they don't like what you do. And that could be for any reason or no reason. And so there's significant business risk associated with deploying all of your development or your compute resources into a public cloud like that, where they actually are essentially censoring you. Additionally, there are a lot of ways that the large cloud services, they kind of hook you in and make it pretty sticky and make it hard to get in and out. And so then your bill starts to balloon, and a lot of people don't really understand why they're paying so much for what they believe are relatively simplistic services. We can offer that at a better opportune rate for our customers than the hyperscalers can, because they're deploying so much capital so rapidly. They're kind of locked into a system that they already have. And so we can basically build better from the ground up. The other opportunity is because of how we're looking at deploying the cloud, and because we're utilizing it kind of by the people for the people, we don't have to deploy, $1 billion in a quarter, right? Which means we'd have to buy a big chunk, build our own data center, do all this stuff, be locked in, and take massive amounts. We can kind of cherry pick where we want to place for the best levels of efficiency, and that allows us, as we start to scale up, obviously this business will scale given the demand that exists in the market. But there are opportunities for us to be strategic about that allow us to utilize those advantages around not being the typical public cloud players that can push us into spaces, right? Where we don't have to be locked into their particular designs.
Awesome. And I got a question here, and I think it's a great question. We might have answered some of this already, and Nash, I'll send this one over to you. A good friend, Rachel, says, with technology changing so fast, will the hardware and also these types of data centers still be relevant in the future. And I think the hardware question might be a very good as far as the useful life cycle, so people can understand, how long do these machines last, and what does it, is it 6 months? Is it 18 months? And then also the data center side, is it going to continue to be a relevant model?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've seen, I think, consistently over the last decade and a half or so that there is a life cycle to hardware in data centers in the cloud. So eventually, hardware needs to be replaced and refreshed in order to bring it up to new specifications as Moore's law continues to apply, and CPU storage, all that kind of stuff improves in its performance. So generally speaking, the useful life cycle for servers that we try to design for the cloud, we try to get them in the minimum 3 to 5 year life cycle, but ideally what we would like is for them to be usable, profitable more to 5 to 7 years, to refresh them out at that kind of time scale. The reality is that when you build cloud infrastructure, like you said earlier, nobody ever deletes data, right? So the data needs just keep expanding. So as soon as you build a machine that has disks in it and you put it in the cloud and data lands on the disks, that data is not going anywhere. It's going to sit there forever. And it actually can often be more expensive to move the data somewhere else than just to leave it where it is. So we do expect the machines that we're building now to have a good usable life cycle. They will eventually need to get replaced, and they'll stop being quite as profitable once the compute is not as good as what you'd like. We have plans, though, as the project grows, right? What we're starting with today is sort of a basic type of compute node that's got a reasonable amount of compute. It's got a reasonable amount of RAM and storage. As the project grows, we're going to expand into selling nodes that are more storage focused, which is obviously a big deal for us. But as you've also mentioned AI, we've got designs in the lab right now to build machines that are focused on providing the kind of compute needed to actually run artificial intelligence algorithms. So instead of having to subscribe to, Google's artificial intelligence algorithm, or Amazon's, or OpenAI's ChatGPT, or anything like that, you'll be able to actually use the hardware you buy to run your own large language models, to run your own AI models, to interact with, to have apps on your phone that are built by folks like us, folks like you in the audience, to actually allow you to interact with the hardware that we've deployed in the cloud for artificial intelligence purposes. And we're just at the very beginning of that. We're starting to see, up until now, there's been pretty much just NVIDIA in terms of available as a hardware vendor for artificial intelligence. But we're starting to see other hardware manufacturers come online, and as they do, we'll be able to access their supply chains. And because of the power of the community that's involved in this project, we feel very confident that we're going to be able to get access to those supply chains in a way that's going to allow us to build future-proofed AI infrastructure that'll be usable for many years to come, and extremely effective in comparison to what people are doing with decentralized AI.
That's awesome. Thanks. And I got the chills when you started talking. It was like, wait, we can have our own AIs and our own AI app, and they're going to run on our hardware. Like I don't think you guys maybe might or might not understand the importance of this, especially over the next 5, 10, 15 years as AI becomes more prevalent in our life. I know, people are like, oh, well, they're laughing at Google's AI, or they're laughing at this because they made mistakes, right? But one of these days, it's not going to be a joke anymore. It's going to be serious business, and it's going to be, they know everything about you. They know exactly when you're going to go to the store, what brand of eggs you buy, and what brand of milk you buy, what color your underwear are on Tuesday, and then on Saturday when you wash them. And so they'll know everything about you, essentially.
Yeah.
Spencer, question, on the data center side, I got a couple here, again, from Rachel. Are the data centers that we'll be using, have they been built yet? Or are we trying to build? And then also kind of, is the data center model going to be relevant with AI coming into the picture?
Yeah, great question. So to answer the first question around the data centers that we're using, are they built yet? Yes, we will begin deployment into existing data centers. And across the globe, there are thousands of data centers. Some are the ones that the hyperscalers use. Some are built and developed by your traditional industrial real estate developers that focus on data center style real estate because they know the power infrastructure and the electrical that's required. And some we will likely end up building. As we scale, we will look at customizing the types of locations that we deploy hardware assets into based on how we run our specific cloud business. And that will allow us to have our own operational efficiencies. One of the interesting things, and to Nash's point, traditional data centers, the buildings themselves have a very long useful life, but as you have more and more power that you need for the hardware, some of those buildings become less efficient with respect to how you can use the space and the power. There are opportunities to look at retrofitting those buildings, and there are lots of groups like IBM. There are lots of older legacy tech companies that are looking to get rid of their legacy data center buildings because they're either moving to the cloud or they don't know how to retrofit those buildings. So there are opportunities to look at securing and retrofitting existing buildings, but we probably look at a number of different opportunities around whether we build, buy, or partner with someone. And so it's always an ongoing strategy around what's the most efficient path to deploying our resources, both for and within the community, but also for the third parties that will be very interested in what we provide.
Awesome. And this one just came in, I think is really good. How safe will these data centers be from hackers, or our machines be from hackers in that general sense? And whoever wants to take that one, that will be our last question for now. I'm going to move on with the presentation, but Nash, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're choosing data centers that are, tier 2 data centers, right up there with the data centers that corporations use every day, would be deployed into. So they're physically secure. I know we took a bunch of folks from the community out to the initial data center that we're deploying into is in Irvine, California. We had a bunch of folks meet us out there in Irvine recently. And they went through, the man trap and the security and everything like that. So there's physical security to prevent people from getting in who aren't authorized. Then inside the data center, there are cages that are locked, and the racks themselves have locks. And so there's plenty of multiple layers of physical security. In terms of digital security, we're deploying the most advanced firewall technologies and intrusion management systems in order to protect the assets against hackers. It's always a concern. It's something that you have to work at continuously. You constantly have to be aware of it. You constantly have to be fighting against it. I started my career doing physical infrastructure and cybersecurity, and so I feel like I have a good sense for what it's going to take to keep all of the the assets secure and that type of thing. But it's a very good question, and it's definitely something that's front of mind and always something that we're going to be continuously working on. But I think we're going to have security that's as good or better than what's available to everybody else, and we'll be able to help the people that run applications in our cloud keep their systems secure and defend against hackers pretty effectively.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, Nash. Thanks, Spencer. I know there's a lot more I got to go through here, so I want to thank you guys for being on with us. Appreciate you guys being here. And I know we got a full podcast that's going out there. It's about 50 minutes long with Spencer, Nash, and myself. So I know there's a lot of questions, some techie questions that are being asked here. They could be answered in the podcast. We'll do some trainings in the future, but right now the show got to go on. So thank you, Nash. Thank you, Spencer, and we'll see you guys here pretty soon. So with that, guys, we're going to continue on with our presentation here. Like I said, positioning is power. Welcome to CloudX. This is a very, very important step in what we do here. I want to take you guys to where we are at and where we are going. I'll answer some of the questions about the hardware. I've gotten some here, and I know they'll be answered in the presentation. So first, the roadmap here. This phase has already been completed. Phase 1 is complete. Research and development, legal, business model implementation, and pre-sales. We've already sold well over, I would say, not a little bit over $1 million in hardware in the last 4 weeks. We have our first orders of hardware already in. We have our first data center already locked in, and the hardware is arriving here soon. So this phase is complete. This is where we are at right now, guys. You are here. We are launching the limited edition alpha phase. We have tier 1 and tier 2 pricing. The tier 1 pricing, $10,500 per node hardware, is ending on Monday, March 4th. Tier 2 starts on Tuesday, which is $12,500. When we move into beta, our pricing will move up to $15,000. That will be the actual price of the hardware. So people are asking, well, why should I buy now? I don't understand. You don't have to. Do not buy if you still have questions. If you don't get a warm and fuzzy, but it's going to cost 50% more. So do your due diligence, do it now, and make a decision, because that's going to save you money over time. Okay. Once our servers are implemented, we will be launching phase 1 of cloud compute customer acquisition. Okay. We'll be launching a new brand called Nova Web Hosting. Okay. These services will go out to retail customers around the world in different formats of, buying VMs, virtual machines, and being able to slice up and buy certain resources. And we'll also be going into the enterprise side. So we have a couple different strategies of how we actually help the community get cloud computing customers onto the cloud. At the same time, an invitation to anybody listening to this right now. I already know I have about 5 or 10 of these people out there. If you guys work for small to medium-sized companies, even large companies, and you see what they're spending on AWS or Google or any of the other clouds out there, we feel comfortable in being able to say this. We'll be able to help that company save money. There's obviously some nuances on there, but with a good referral, we'll get an inside sales team in there. And this is where phase 2 comes in, right? Our mid-compute nodes, which is a larger machine, the deployment of those, and then the training of an inside sales team. So the inside sales team will actually be very technical and being able to approach enterprise level clients, medium to large size companies, to be able to get them to migrate over to our cloud if they deem so, they deem it necessary. I know myself, for IX, we spend about $15,000 a month in servers between AWS and a couple other providers. That's $15,000 a month. I could pay back to the hardware owners or pay back to the owner of that node for using that. Instead of paying that to AWS, instead of paying that to Google or Rackspace or any of the other vendors out there, I can actually pay that back to my community. So I think that's a pretty exciting possibility there. Okay. The phase 3 of this is going to be our large compute nodes. These are obviously going to be bigger machines. They're going to be more adept to, larger enterprise clients. These are your Ferraris and Lamborghinis, if you will, of the world. And so this will allow us as well to be able to deploy any type of AI technologies or solutions out there. So that's where our roadmap is heading. All of this, guys, is going to be done this year. Right now, we are in the process of setting up data center number 1 with our first couple racks. We'll move into more and more racks and more data centers as time goes on. Okay. Our model, how does it work? You can own the hardware, you could lease the hardware to own, or you could load clients onto the hardware. So the great thing, like what Nash said, is we have the ability is that phrase, eat your own dog food. That means we have the ability to buy hardware, create software solutions that we can go and retail. Okay, we can create business in the boxes. We can create different website hosting solutions that our brand ambassadors inside of our community can go out there and retail. Okay, we'll talk more about this here pretty soon. Let's move on here really quickly. This is just an industry comparison here. I want to just double check here. We're still streaming. I think so. All right. Sorry, guys. We had a little bit of a technical glitch on this side here really quickly. Our industry comparison. And I do this for my friends out there that made a lot of money in the Bitcoin mining industry in the beginning. Right now, it's getting to a point where my friends, my hobbyists in the Bitcoin industry are getting pushed out by large corporations because it's getting more and more expensive to mine Bitcoin, especially with the halving up and coming. Currently, right now, this is what an ASIC miner is paying out. And then these are what data centers have the potential to pay out. Let's talk a little bit more about this in our machines. Our phase one machines, like Nash said, are the basic compute nodes. This is going to be AMD Ryzen 7000 series or something similar, okay? The daily potential revenue, and I put daily here. There's some asterisks there. Remember, these are all for illustration purposes only. They could be higher. They could be lower, okay? This is just an average here. $88 a day, potentially up to $2,600 a month, okay? If you multiply that by 12, you can do your own projections there. These machines, guys, are very, I would say powerful, and I say powerful in the sense of compared to what I'm used to seeing in a blockchain space. You look at what blockchain's done in crypto mining versus what data centers are doing. And now you look at the difference of, okay, if I was a crypto mining operation versus a data set server, web hosting, cloud compute operation, you compare those two things. There's not even a comparison right now. And you start to realize why the hyperscalers, when I say hyperscalers, are the companies that you know, why they have $1 trillion valuations, why this is one of the most profitable divisions or sectors that these hyperscalers are running in, and why they are putting billions and billions of dollars back into this division or this sector of theirs, because it is highly, highly profitable for them. And that's how they're making money. And that's how they're funding all their other projects. And guess who's paying for that cloud compute? You are. You host a website? You are. You have storage devices, cloud devices where you store photos or files or media. Maybe you're paying $9.99 a month, $10.99 a month, $19.99 a month. Guess who's making all that money? They are. And you're utilizing their services. Why not take your power back, store your own media on your own private cloud where you know it's secure? You have sensitive information, sensitive photos out there. Why store it where you do not know where it is, where it could get leaked, where it could get hacked? Why not store it on your own private cloud? Why not back up your own chat history and your own videos and photos on your own private cloud? And anything that you're not using above and beyond that, give it to the public cloud and allow us as a community to monetize those spare resources. So how to purchase? Like I said, tier 1 pricing, $10,500. That is ending Monday, March 4th. Okay. However, what we're going to do, because I know a lot of people say, well, that's only today, tomorrow, and Monday. I don't have that ability to make that purchase that quickly. We are going to, on the bottom of your screen here, there is a URL going across, www.ixlaunch.com/CloudX. If you input your information in that form, it's very basic form, name, email, who referred you, will lock in your pricing at the tier 1 pricing for the next 7 days till the end of the week, okay, till Friday, and Friday of next week. So if you lock in your pricing, you will have the next 7 days In order to do so, you must register at www.ixlaunch.com/CloudX. If you do not do that, you will see the pricing at $12,500. Pricing will change on Tuesday morning, okay, at midnight. But for those of you guys that lock in your pricing, you'll have an additional 5 days at the $10,500 pricing. So again, that's www.ixlaunch.com/CloudX. Now, when you're going to purchase this, I want to take you guys, and so you guys understand how this works. You understand how this is bigger business than just, oh, I'm going to buy something for $10,500. No, we don't want you guys just to buy something or refer somebody to buy something for tens of thousands of dollars and them not understand what they are buying. Okay. So when you go into the shopping cart, what's going to happen, and this will be up and ready on once we start the tier 2 pricing, a purchase agreement is going to pop up. In here, this is an agreement. It has all the recitals and covenants and all the terms and conditions of your purchase. Go through, read it. It is all detailed there for you. You will e-sign that agreement. Okay. That is the purchase agreement that you are doing with the hardware company. After that one, you'll get one more pop-up, and that's your managed services agreement. This is the agreement that you're doing on the software side, on the cloud side, if you will. Okay. And here it is talking about allocating your spare resources to the public cloud, participating in the marketing services and the promotional services, and understanding that this asset, it needs to be rented out in order for it to make you revenues. Okay. Understanding that if it doesn't get rented out, it's going to make you zero revenues, just to be 100% honest here. So if you're buying a machine that's going to make you money, you're going to want to put a little bit of time and energy and effort into this, a reasonable amount of time and energy into this in the setup phase. And I'm not talking you have to go and start an extra job, but look, if I was going to buy an apartment or an apartment building, if I was going to buy a duplex or a fourplex or a 12plex or an entire complex of apartments, I'm going to make sure I know what I'm getting into. I'm going to make sure that I either have one tenant or 4 tenants or 200 tenants to be able to fill up that. And if I don't, I'm going to be able, I want to know that I can go to somebody and get help filling up these machines. That's what this managed services agreement will cover. Okay. It is a long agreement. It doesn't fit on one page, but you'll be able to go through and read it before you purchase anything, guys, before you purchase. Okay. Purchase agreement, managed service agreement. You're going to e-sign these. You're going to agree to this before anybody purchases. So if this turns people away because you closed it, maybe you told them it wasn't what it is, well, I'm sorry. But guess what? We want to do good, clean business, and we want people to understand what they are getting involved in. Okay. At this point in time right now, we have a couple different ways to process payments. Coin payments is our crypto processor. You could do wire transfers into our US entities or to our UAE entities, as well as NetSense, who is our UAE merchant processor as well. So as well, guys, understand that we have more and more information coming. That is all I have today, guys, as far as the cloud side of things. That is our public launch. I wanted to try to stay under an hour. We're just at an hour here. There's going to be more and more trainings, guys, lots more. So throughout the week, on Wednesday of next week, we do our corporate training. Log in there. We'll be going through all of the details. If you guys have questions that I wasn't able to get to in the chat, bring them. If you're at all interested, come to our Wednesday corporate training call. Get back to the brand ambassador that invited you here today, because you have the ability to position yourselves to be within the first few hundred nodes, and those will be the first ones filled up inside of our public cloud. So with that, guys, thank you so much for being here with us. Nash, Spencer, thank you guys as well. Thank you to all the corporate team, everybody that supported. Cole will be back over here, Liv, Misty, Paul, Bob, everybody. Thank you so much for all the support that you guys offered to our brand ambassadors on that side, and Nash, Spencer, all of the information. I did not get to talk about Rob, but we'll talk about him later. Thank you guys. Have a good day, and we'll see you guys soon.